Fill your thirst beside the river. Wash the journey from your hands. Feel the comfort flow inside you. Come this far, you understand.
Hi, welcome to Healing Outside the Box. I'm Rosemary LaChance, a spiritual healer, advisor, and teacher.
And I'm Tracy Crampton, an intuitive advisor.
And I am your host for this thought-provoking series, and am dedicated to providing you with food for thought information and answers to all modalities of alternative healing, spiritual development, animal welfare, environmental concerns, and so much more in the form of guest speakers who are experts in their fields. This series is recorded and will be shown in your area on your local public service cable network. Please contact them for dates and times. Please visit my website and click on My TV Show, where you will find a wealth of information about this show.
These shows are now available for you to watch free on YouTube. Just go to YouTube and type in Healing Outside the Box to make your choices. We are constantly adding new shows, so keep checking back. We are also on Facebook under Healing Outside the Box. Please like our page for the latest information about the show. We hope you enjoy the show.
Okay, tonight is show number 249, and the title is Turning Addiction into Peace. And our illustrious guest tonight is Larry Daniel Webb, founder of Insight LLC, an author, and a Safa practitioner. Welcome, Larry.
Welcome.
Welcome.
Good to see you. Thank you.
Great to
Having
see
me.
you again.
Okay, we've had Larry on here before, and we're so happy to have him back with us again. Let me tell you a little bit about him. Larry Daniel Webb founded Insight Alternative Addiction Healing in 1994. Previously to that, Larry lived a life of addiction and homelessness. After returning to my roots from my upbringing, and a combination of meditation brought me to the realization that I could change everything in my life instantaneously, Larry said. Returning to school and success in business, Larry discovered some flaws in a health structure that disempowered people instead of empowering them. This became Larry's mission and passion. Larry wrote a book, and it's titled...
You can hold it up for the audience. It's titled The Little Book from This to Bliss. It's a gem, definitely.
Tracy's going to read.
I'm going to read a foreword in Larry's book by George Hayes Jr. He's a licensed social worker. And the foreword reads, From recovery to a rediscovery of life's bliss. My name is George Hayes, and I've been blessed with the opportunity to write my thoughts about the little book. I appreciate Larry Daniel Webb with trusting me to share my thoughts. I am the following: a licensed clinical social worker, a licensed alcohol and drug counselor, and recovering addict with over 35 years clean. I am trained in the medical model, 12-step programs, medication management, and rational recovery. That being said, I chose to read the book with a bit of skepticism, but that was quickly challenged as I learned about Bliss and his approach to rediscovery. Mr. Webb's ability to offer a uniquely different look to all aspects of rediscovery and challenge the essence of recovery. The little book, author Larry Daniel Webb, takes the reader on an informative journey about alternatives to traditional treatments. As a recovering person, fear, F-E-A-R, all capitalized, has always been defined as face everything and recover. These words are challenged in the book and mean false evidence appearing real. What emerges from that is a healthy new outlook for all whom choose to read this book, covering everything from medication, addiction, support groups, and faith, to finding purpose in an ever-changing world. And that's the foreword.
Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Beautifully written.
So we were going to start with some questions for you.
Okay.
And the first one is, what is the big difference between recovery and being recovered?
Well, most people, the majority of people that you find are in recovery. And that's how basically that they go through their life. I haven't really been like in social media for a really long time.
Okay.
So as I went back into it and started going online and finding out more about it, if you look up the word recovery, there's like 1 million people under that.
So many groups.
When you look up recovery, I mean like recovered, there's about 1,000 people.
Oh.
Oh, that's interesting.
Which is really interesting. Is I didn't think I'd find that, but that's what I found.
I wonder
I was
why.
like, wow.
Why? Why do
Because
you think?
people don't recover. You know, like if someone asked me about, am I in recovery? No, I'm recovered. There's a difference. There's a big difference in that. And basically the biggest difference is that people who are in recovery are almost like waiting for the shoe to drop. They never ever feel free or healed. And the programs that are out there are never about healing. They are about staying in recovery.
So it's about maintaining that process as
Yes.
opposed to having a completion with that process.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Wow. So what was your inspiration for this book?
Inspiration really for the book was my own journey when I was really struggling with it. And one night my heart was pounding out of my chest, and I went to a hospital that I thought was the hospital. And I was like 4 towns away in a different hospital. And but I thought I was going to die.
Wow.
So I went there for help because I wanted help. And I just went to the hospital, knocked on the door. Someone let me in. And they said, well, there's no one here that can help you now, but let me see what I can do. So she goes off in the back, leaves me there, comes back and hands me a card. And this was on a Saturday night. And she says, if you come back Monday, someone here can help you. And I was like, Monday?
God, what happens now?
Right.
I'd be back out in 20 minutes doing what I was doing before, because that little window kind of goes away. So I had always wondered, I was like, what happens when someone feels that motivation to really change their life in that moment and they want help? And you can't get it at that moment
Right.
for some reason, like we don't have anything here, nothing is opened, because you lose them right then. That could mean death, basically.
Sure.
So at that point I decided, well, then I'll have to create that program in my head. That's what I was thinking.
Right, right.
And in that state of mind too, I was like,
Yeah.
I have to create that program. But I really took it seriously, and I was upset that I could not get something done right when I needed it.
Right. You're looking
Yeah.
right towards like problem solution. Let's plug it in.
Let's plug it in. That's whatever it is. I'm ready. I'm ready for it. So from there, it just became, okay, if this is going to happen, I have to start with myself.
Right.
So it became a journey to understand myself, because no one signs up in their life to come down here to be an addict.
Right.
No one says, oh, you know what, I just want to journey down to earth and become an addict. See what that's like. That just doesn't
Have
happen.
that
So
experience.
you kind of already know that's not who you are. So it's really a discovery of discovering who you are and why are you really here.
So was that the start of the turning point for you, or what?
That was the start of the turning point for me. And in my journey, as it says in the very beginning of the book, I basically went from that to not using again.
Really? That
The
quickly?
next day. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, and it wasn't just because it wasn't hard and I didn't have withdrawals and all those things. You start to find out about yourself, and you realize that a withdrawal is your body trying to get back to normal. So no matter how crazy and how bad it feels, it's homeostasis.
Homeostasis.
Yeah.
Your body's trying to get back there, so it's going to reject.
Which is an interesting thing about addiction, because you have that like massive high, but it's going to compensate with massive lows,
Massive low.
right? So
Yeah.
I understand that.
And as
homeostasis.
high as you can get, the low's
Equal
going
low,
to be
yeah.
the equal low is coming.
Right.
So you're just trying to stay high all the time. So at that point, that's where I was, and I was just like, I'm going to discover this for myself, and I just like, obviously I have to stop doing this. So when you do, you feel what your body goes through.
think that's a big part of the problem is the feeling, like people are running away from having that experience of feeling through those more difficult emotions and even some physical, like a lot of physical discomfort, I imagine.
Very discomfort, yeah. And it was a matter of just sitting still and being quiet. So I used to go down to the water and I would just sit there and feel all the discomfort and all that sweating and everything else that was going on, shaking and all kinds of different things, and knowing that you want to do something but you don't want to do it anymore. So you just sit there and see where your mind takes you. And
that's something most people can't do.
Yeah, especially if they're trying to escape from their mind.
The problem that got them there in the first place. What happens to that? What do you do with that?
With the problem that got them there in the first place? Well, that's when you're sitting in silence, all of that comes up for you. Everything like that comes up for you. People say, how do you meditate and how do you get quiet? Just start. Basically, you just start. And your mind's going to take you everywhere because your mind doesn't want you sitting like that.
That's right.
I know in your book you talk a lot about that monkey mind. And,
It attacks hardest right then. And when you stop paying attention, it starts to attack you when you're sleeping instead.
Oh, really?
Because if you're not paying attention to it, and you're not when you're conscious, you're not paying attention, it's gonna sit back and wait for you.
Yeah, for you to slow it down.
Get your guard down, right?
Yeah. And as soon as you're not aware, not aware of, you're not paying attention, and you're just, like starting to dream, you have drug dreams.
Oh,
really?
Oh yeah.
What's a drug dream?
Drug dream would be like if like my drug of choice would be called crack cocaine.
Okay.
So you would swear you were smoking crack cocaine in your dream.
Wow.
To the point where you think you can taste it.
Wow.
And it doesn't go away very fast. It takes years to go away.
Okay.
Wow.
So this is post like recovery or?
Yes. Yeah.
So still having those dreams.
Still having the dreams. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And other body sensations like twitching. I used to have a knee that wouldn't stop shaking.
Yeah.
It just, no matter what I did, it just kept going. I was sitting there and stuff like, I don't know if it's ever going to stop.
Restless leg syndrome, I think that,
Yeah, it's like, I don't know if this is ever going to stop because I've damaged myself. So that really became it. But in that journey, you start to test yourself.
Right.
And see what is true and what isn't true. What are you capable of and what aren't you capable of? You know, and the first part is, can I just sit here without, and truthfully, when you first sit and you're sitting in the summertime and on the water, it's all mosquitoes.
Yeah.
They're eating you alive, basically, and you're just saying, okay, I'm going to sit through even that to beat this. And eventually they stop. It just seems like they stop and that's not a problem anymore.
Wow.
Yeah, so.
You know, you're the exception. Most people, or at least half of the people, can't do what you did. What should they do?
That's something that I thought about. I was like, okay, so and I literally did this. After some time I went by and I knew I was just sitting out in the water and I was sitting there and I knew I hadn't gone back. I tried to walk on the water.
Were you that amazed that you would like?
I was like, you know, you have that thought in your head, like, hey,
I can do anything.
I can do anything, and you walk, and you're like, no, I can't.
I'm not quite there yet.
No, I can't.
Not working.
Maybe another time.
So the realization is that, well, if you're not walking on water, that means anybody else could do this. I'm not special.
Okay, you're not special.
You're not special.
I'm not special at all.
You're not one of Christ's buddies.
Yeah. I said if I could do that, then anyone else could do that.
Else.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
So you say, "Oh my God, I'm not special. Now what do I do?"
That's it. So at that point, I was like, "Boy, if I can do this, I want to share it."
I guess like because you talk about recovery and recovered. In that window of time when you were sitting there, did you already feel recovered? Was there like a switch that went on?
At that time, I did not feel recovered. No.
Okay.
At that time, I wasn't even thinking in the idea of recovery. The word wasn't even in my mind.
Okay.
It was just like, I am not going to live this way anymore.
A choice, a conviction.
Yeah. I'm not going to live like this anymore. There's a different, I'm here for a different reason. I wasn't here to be like that.
So do you feel like there was like that moment in time when you like made a choice and you were like thrown onto like another trajectory, essentially? Like
I
this
became
is what
my new addiction. When you leave addiction, you usually trade it in for something.
right.
Right.
And I traded it in for knowledge. I wanted to know how your brain worked, how the body reacts, what is true and what isn't true. And people would tell me all the time, they would say, well, you can never ever go to where you used to cop drugs ever again.
Right.
And I was like, really? What if I go sit there all day and don't cop?
And
when
you
that
did?
happened,
Wow.
I was like, well, cross that off. That's not true. Because I
So
just
it was
did.
it was like an experiment.
It was an experiment, yeah, absolutely. Over a year had gone by and I hadn't used or anything, so not that I was just counting. After a long period of time, I said to myself, wow, what would happen now? Because people said, well, all you need is one and you're right back to where you were. So I went and I bought $100 worth of crack cocaine.
Oh,
I
wow.
went home, I packed as much as I could into the pipe and took the biggest hit I could take.
Yeah.
And after the hit, I felt the high, and I took the rest of it and dumped it down the toilet and said, well, that's not true.
Was that an easy choice to dump
Really?
it?
Yes. Yeah, because I was like,
Yeah.
that's just not me anymore. It's
Wow.
just
Like
not
you
me.
had completely changed
Yeah.
the makeup of who you are.
That's
and that-
just not me. Yeah.
Wow.
And plus the fact that because of the things that I was studying and looking up about the brain and the mind and quantum physics and all these things, and I was so excited about that, I didn't want to stay doing that, what I was doing, that was so opposite of that and destroying my life when I just wanted to read and hear different things and listen to, at that time, cassette tapes.
You're
Yeah, cassette
dating
tapes.
yourself.
Yeah, cassette tapes.
I remember those well.
I remember trading in a car there was a lease. I traded it in. They told me, well, we don't have cassette tapes anymore. I was like, what do you mean? I've got a house full of cassettes that I have to listen to. So I made them put my old cassette player in my new car
Oh wow.
so that I could still
Yeah.
listen to those things. Yeah.
I think a lot of us.
But
do that.
it became the addiction of just trying to learn and see that. So.
But that, that's extraordinary. That's not the average person. You know what I'm saying? So, I mean, what could you tell the average person, or do you teach? Do you help? How do you? If somebody's out there watching, say, "Oh yeah, listen to him. He did it." But look what he
Well,
did.
he
I
didn't
can't.
walk on water though.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
he is the
Yeah.
average person.
But he
So-
said I couldn't do it like that. I mean, I'm still having this problem. Everybody hates me, or whatever the problem is. That's gonna, lost my job. I lost my wife. Something. How do you?
It's that thing about, we always hear people always get into these conversations and they always say, well, you know what they say? You gotta get rid of they. It's not about they, it's about you.
Right.
Anyone that goes through addiction and walks away from addiction, no matter how you did it, the person that did it was you. You may have helped people who have assisted you and given you good, but the work is done by you. And a lot of people don't even do the work. They just kind of glide through
Right. They don't
whatever
do the
program they're in.
emotional
They
work,
just kind of
follow
glide
the
through.
rules.
Just
Like
keep,
this keeps me
just
safe.
keep doing it.
Yeah.
Just keep doing it. We just keep doing it, and then they start to change their language to fit what the group is saying, or the masses are saying, or what they're being told.
What do you think are the common tenets in recovery for most people going through certain programs, and what do you feel differently about, based on your experience?
Based on my experience from what I've seen, and I literally went back to school for this, because eventually someone told me, oh, you should go back to school and get your documentation, because you have some great ideas, you should go back. And even when I started to learn there, there's a repetition of thinking that you have a disease,
Okay.
and
Yeah,
that
the
you're
disease
always going to
model,
have this disease. And people who are experts in the field they have different ideas whether it's a disease or not a disease. So which one do you want to go with?
Oh, which
Based on
tenant?
Which tenant do you want to go with?
Let's
If
start
you
with the
want
one
to
it's a
believe it's a
disease.
disease, then you'll have that experience. That will be your experience, that it's a disease that you have no control over.
Yeah, or some people believe some diseases are curable and others are not.
Correct.
Right.
Correct. And I just refused to believe that. I was like, well, if you could stop from one day to the next, I'm going to check off whatever here,
This is not
whatever
a
I can
disease,
check off.
right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Is this a disease or not? So when we even would discuss it, I would always stay on the side of it's not really a disease. It's not a disease that I caught. It's a choice that I'm making. I chose to do this. I chose to do that. It's not in my genes. My parents didn't drink, hardly drank anything. My brother and sister who I grew up with have never touched a drug in their life. Why did I? I chose it. I basically chose it.
And I've heard it said that would mean that person who does that has an addictive personality. You've heard that said, an addictive
Absolutely.
personality. So what do you think about that?
I think who doesn't have an addictive personality? Who doesn't have that?
In some form or other, right?
That's it. I just bought the other day. I just bought a new car. I'm driving down the street. I see a nice car go by. I go like this. That's a nice car,
Right.
right? If you ask a child, or if a child is watching TV and they see a toy that they want, and it's July, when do they want it? At Christmas?
Right.
No.
No. They will bother you every day for that toy.
Right.
Keep hinting and talking about it, and oh, there it is, because they want it now. They always want it now, and we always want more. We always have that thing of more. So we all kind of have that.
Yeah.
There isn't anyone who's not addicted. And that's the illusion that we believe.
Okay, that's another illusion. Okay.
Yeah, that's an illusion that we all have. Is that certain
there's a
people are
group.
addicted.
Yeah,
that
there's a group,
yeah. That's addicted.
But
It's
again,
just-
what you did is not something that the average person be able to do, right?
well, I think his book is trying to say the opposite, that the average person could do this.
Yeah, but you have to have critical. You have to think. You have to use your mind on your own and not listen to group thinking, what you're being told, and see if it's true for you.
For you, like a science experiment.
Yeah. So yeah, everything is like, is that true for me?
Test the hypothesis.
Yes. Exactly. So if I could do that, then anyone could do that. They really want to challenge themselves to ask that question: is that true for me?
That's what there it is right there.
Yeah.
Do we really want to challenge yourself?
Yep.
And some people don't want to challenge them. They don't care.
But because it's easier not to.
Yeah.
Because it's easier not to. One of the hardest things that we ever want to do is look at ourselves.
Oh, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's with anything. With
Yeah.
anything.
Why do you
And,
think that is?
Well, one of the biggest gotchas to addiction is lying. You become addicted to lying because everything in your world becomes a lie, and when you can't stop lying, it just becomes who you are.
Right.
It just becomes so natural to you that you lie without thinking. Someone says something and you just lie because you're so used to telling the lie
Yeah.
and then covering up the lies that you tell, and you get so deep into it, it becomes an addiction.
Yeah.
All
I can
right.
see that. I can understand that.
Yeah.
Yes.
So part of breaking the addiction is being honest with yourself.
Right.
What's really going on? What are you really feeling? What are you really thinking?
Is part of that being honest with yourself, like taking back, the power of your choice? Like, because I think a lot of times when people are down that road, either the addiction itself to the chemical or the addiction to lying, that part of the lying is that, like, I don't have the power, within me to overcome this or to recover from this.
Once again, it becomes listening to group thinking. If you hear a bunch of people say, because we as human beings, one of our characteristics is to follow the herd.
Yes, that's true. Oh, yeah. I call it the crowd mentality.
Yeah. It's that thing that they say, if you follow the herd, you're going to step in a lot of shit. That's just life.
That's true.
And people are more comfortable following the herd than to go off on their own.
Yeah, you're right.
Walking that path of less traveled path. So when I'm sitting there on the water, I'm saying, you're taking a journey down a different path.
Right. And kind of in light of the programs that have existed for, let's say, like decades, right, that have been out there to help people in the recovery process, I think maybe we've outgrown some of those models, like in the sense of, our evolution and what we're ready for. And I kind of, when I read your book, I was thinking of that, like when you're a toddler, it's just like, put the rounded corners on the table and don't, use a plastic cup and, make the boundaries very defined so that, like, the toddler can understand, like, don't put your finger in that outlet, don't go touch that because it's dangerous. But I think when I read your book and I've known you for a while, so understanding, like, your process and your program, to me it feels like, it's a program for those who are ready to go beyond, like, and understand that they do have this power within them. They don't necessarily need those, like, boundaries anymore to contain them from themselves, essentially.
It's like you almost have to kind of check out of everything to find yourself.
Right.
To
break the mold.
To break that mold, to find out who you are.
Right.
Most it's like one of the most amazing things is that science has proven that you get your personality between ages 0 and 6. All right. Well, what we teach between 0 and 6, all right, is really, really important because it's gonna be how you're gonna act throughout your life, unless someone changes that program. But then, as we get older, you think that we would be not be following, or we would be following those same models that we learned when we were young, but we don't. Now we become weak as we get older, and people start saying, you don't have the power to do that, or you can't, or you can't. You watch enough television and you think that you're thinking.
Reinforced.
You think that you're thinking, and you're actually being thought.
Yeah.
You're actually being thought. Yeah, you're being programmed. That's why they used to call it TV programming. So when you're constantly doing that, you just kind of follow along. But if you step away from that, your mind starts to work and starts to go back to what it would normally do and start to process and start to think.
Right. So do you feel like a big key to becoming recovered is to, like, step away from that programming?
Yeah, absolutely. Step away from the program. Even some of the program that you learned when you were a young toddler, because you basically are downloading everything that you see. And some of the things are going to be wrong.
Right.
And you have to question those things. Do you know what I mean? But most of us do what? I'm going to vote Republican because the parents did. There's no reason in your head why you're doing it, but my parents did, so I do. Our whole family's been that way. And so now you're just like following along. There's no thought process to it. It's just, well, I'm going to be that. Then you start to get an opinion and strong opinions about it because that's the way you were raised.
Raised, right. Conditioned, yeah.
Conditioned to believe, yeah.
That's true, yeah.
There's this amazing story that I have to say.
Go ahead.
Yeah.
Because it's so relevant to something right now. And I'm not talking bad about this person at all because I think it's courageous what he's done. But Dak Shepard, he's a actor, basically. And he has a podcast. Very, very popular. He's brilliant on... I've never seen it, but someone read my book and said, so I wonder... She goes, I've always wondered why he's always talking about, I've had 16 years clean. I've had 16 years clean. And she goes, after reading your book, I realized that you're saying that's an error that we do. I said, well, technically, yeah. Well, the truth of the story is he just recently relapsed, unfortunately.
Okay.
He did? Oh.
Yes, he did. So when he confessed to that and said it, and I mean, it takes a lot to be a celebrity and then come out and say, hey, yeah, I relapsed, which is very brave of him and all of that. But he's now saying, so at this point he was saying, so now I have 7 days clean. And I'm saying,
what happened to all those
what's
years?
the counting about?
Yeah.
What's the point of counting those days? So I made a comment on the bottom of the article that was written, which I've never done in my life. Because I never comment on anything. I don't even read anything that's below an article. But if people were saying, oh, it's good, it's bad, whether he did or didn't, and I just said, what's the point of counting your days clean?
I think it might reinforce that, like, negative judgment you have on yourself. Like, okay, had all this and that all got erased because of this one day, and then I've been clean since then. It doesn't get erased. Right?
But they actually erase it and go back to day one.
Yeah, they do.
Because the way you're taught is
Right.
that's where you go back. You got to start again.
Right.
Okay, dust yourself off, and let's start again. When you're a little child, and you stand up, and you fall down trying to walk, your parents don't go, don't try that again, right? You get up and eventually start walking. They don't reward you for every day that for the first couple of days they do. Oh, you did good.
Yeah,
You didn't fall. You didn't clap. Or you're riding a little bike with the training wheels. You take them off. You fall down a couple of times, and eventually you're just riding.
Right.
All right. No one says,
Congratulations. You rode like a block today, or you rode 2 blocks tomorrow.
If you met me for the first time, and you said, "Hi, Larry," and I said, "Hi, hey, nice to meet you." I said, "It's been 59 years and 4 months since I wet my bed." Exactly. You would think, what?
Good for you.
Are you still counting that? So how long do you count? Keep counting. And in truth, in your subconscious, you're carrying your addiction with you.
Right.
Because you're looking at it every single day. So it doesn't go away.
Right.
It's there. And then when someone relapses and dies, I'll use the example, and it's not a judgment once again, it's like a thought pattern that I've had. If someone had 30 years sober, and then they relapse and die because something tragic happens in their life, well, you've been trained and you've been taught that this could happen again. That shoe could drop.
Right.
So it's like a self-fulfilling prophecy.
Prophecy, yeah.
So do you think that's probably why so many people who, when they do relapse, they
And then the
often have
people who see that happen say what?
Oh, reinforces it.
Reinforces what they just said. And it's like, instead of breaking it and saying, okay, I did that, I don't wet my bed anymore, I don't walk around thinking it could happen again. It could
Very
happen.
well could.
Do you know? I have a whole, not to pick on, I'm not trying to really pick on a group, because trust me, I believe that the programs that are out there are meant to help you.
Yeah, the intention.
The intention's there to help you, and a lot of it is very powerful in bringing people, from a low place to a higher place. Okay, and there's a study out there. It's by last name is Hawkins. I can't think of his first name all of a sudden. I don't know why it's in the book. He wrote Power versus Force.
Power versus Force.
Power
With
versus
David
Force.
Hawkins.
Yes, and he did a 29-year study, and through that he could basically calibrate vibration, and they would say that like Jesus Christ vibrated at 1,000. Okay, Mother Teresa vibrated at 700. Okay, love is at 400. if you're vibrating at 20 or 30, you can't heal. And 20 and 30 is guilt and shame. If you have guilt and shame, which most people who are addicted have
Yeah.
guilt and shame for all the things that they've done to their families and whatever, you can't heal. So what we do as a society is we send a child or something away, all right, away from the family who loves them more than anyone else, to a program where they're spending, your family is now putting out a lot of money to send them to a program. Some of these programs are $30,000 a month and more.
Oh my God.
So now that the child goes there, knows that the family gave that up, that kind of,
monetary investment.
up, all right, spending
A
on
lot
the
more
child.
pressure.
The child comes back home and relapses. How much guilt and shame does he have now?
Right.
It's like, now you just tripled it.
Magnified.
You magnified that guilt. He's not getting out of that. Well, a lot of these programs that are out there right now are fantastic at taking you from guilt and shame. Right? For instance, I use AA because it's the largest. They, according to his calculations, they bring you up to about 350.
Okay.
That's a lot higher.
Right. Then
That's a lot higher, and it's right below love, which is at 400. So it brings you that far, which is really good. But once you get to that spot, you got to get to love. You know, a lot of parents that I work with basically say to me, why don't they just turn to God? And I was like, when you're at 20 and 30, you
So
can't see
separated,
God.
right.
You're so far away from that vibration that you can't even relate to that. You've got to bring them up the scale, emotional scale, where they can at least start to feel love, or you're not going to get to that higher vibration and heal.
That's right.
Yep.
So why do you think our current system, you think it's broken, our current system, right?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
And it's still broken now.
Well, we're living through this amazing time where we have a pandemic,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And they're counting how many people die every
That's
Every
programming.
single day.
there's
Groupthink.
all these people are dying. If you can match the numbers for addiction and overdoses to the same
Same amount.
numbers,
Right. And
But it's
maybe
not-
more so now.
but
that,
it's not
like,
called a
people are-
pandemic.
Right.
Right. It's not. You're
Why
right.
isn't it a pandemic?
Yep.
It should be a pandemic, and we should be just as alarmed that many people are dying, and it's
Right.
not getting better. It's getting worse.
Right.
That's right.
It's getting worse.
Because the fear mongering is even
Yeah.
more widespread.
And now that we have this other pandemic, on top of that pandemic, those numbers are going higher
Right.
because there's suicides going on. People are doing more alcohol and more
They're
drugs.
isolated.
Yeah. So it's making things worse.
Yep.
But we're not looking at that. So it's
No.
a broken system.
Really broken.
Yeah.
Rather than I think like whatever you look for evidence of, you will find, right? So, if we had changed the language to like, look how many people are recovering from this, disease or this illness, it would change people's minds entirely,
It's the biggest one. It's the big one. Once an addict, always an addict.
Right.
Well, if that's your belief, you're right.
That's what you'll create. That's
You're
what
right.
you'll find
You're
evidence
gonna be right.
for. Right.
Once an addict, always think that will be right.
I don't think
If you
people
change
realize
that,
how
yeah.
powerful their beliefs are.
Yeah.
Because they will, it's almost like you training, yourself to kind of only look for evidence to support that belief. So you just recreate it over and over again,
And what you said is absolutely perfect because when your studies on the brain and how the brain works, basically how the brain works is when you have a belief, the brain's job
Just to prove.
is to prove that belief is true. So when you have the wrong belief, it's still going to prove that that belief is true. And you'll hear people say it and be absolutely upset with you if you challenge their belief.
Yeah.
They will
You're right.
actually get upset that you, because they think that that's who they are. I am my belief,
Yes.
but you're not your belief.
And it reminds me of the work of, I don't know if you've read his work, Bruce Lipton,
Oh, yeah.
The Biology
Oh,
of Belief.
yes.
And I
Yeah.
know you make reference to it in your book about, like, on a cellular level, we change, you know? So if you're telling your body, you know, I'm an addict, your body constructs itself
Right.
as an addict.
It's it. Yes.
Right.
Yeah. You're saying that all the time, every single day, or you're saying, this is how long I've been clean. So you're reprogramming yourself every single day to believe that.
It
And-
actually
and
changes yourself.
It actually keeps going on. Well, you've got billions of cells that are dying every single day, and you have the same amount coming in every single day. Well, the ones that are coming in hear the way you're thinking,
Yeah, the
and
vibrations,
adapt
right?
that vibration. They're saying, "Well, I guess we're an addict, so let's go." And the ones behind
great.
that follow that, and they keep following that. If you change the way you think and stop saying that, the new cells coming in is like, "Whoa, wait a minute, we're something different." Great, we're something different, and it just keeps building as the old ones are dying away.
Right.
Yeah, so
There's that window, like, of adapting your beliefs that I think I find this difficult with my clients, is that, like, it's very hard for you to believe at this level when you're down here. Like, there's a stepping, I think,
Yeah.
for most people. Some people can have that moment and have, like, sudden enlightenment, and that's very rare, you know? But I think for the wide majority of us, we have to kind of step or lean into those beliefs.
you have to climb this. You have to climb the emotional scale.
Right.
It's like if you have someone who's depressed,
right.
you're like, wow, they're really depressed. Boy, I want to stay away from them. They're depressed. And then the next time you see them, they're angry. You should be happy that they're angry. It's a higher vibration than depression.
Oh, I tell people that all the time.
They're actually. I said,
It's a
look, they're
catalyst to
angry.
movement,
They've actually
yeah.
came up. Now they have a different emotion,
Move through it.
and they're still moving up the scale. But we usually
Retreat.
push them down for being angry.
Right. It's not
You
acceptable.
got to stop that. You got, and you beat them back down towards depression, rather than allow them to come up to that emotional scale.
I agree. I talk about
Yeah.
that a lot with my clients. Yep. People are very afraid of anger because it's such an outward expression, and society doesn't respond to it very well.
No.
So,
No.
but there are ways to channel it in positive ways, and if we can find those positive ways, then we can move through it faster and to higher vibrations.
What did you mean by the quote at the beginning of the book? I was once asked
Oh,
in your book, yeah, when it
yes,
said that.
how long it takes to overcome an addiction? That
I don't know.
part?
You just said what I was once asked in the book.
Oh, I don't know what page.
I believe the statement was, I was once asked how long does it take to overcome an addiction,
All right. So what's the answer?
and I said an instant.
Yeah, you
To
did.
really come over an addiction takes an instant, because you reach a certain point. When it happens in a moment. It's not a long drawn out process, and then you get it one day. You have to fight, and then get it. No, it's a realization. It's a realization, and when you have that realization, it's like an aha moment. It's like, just like any aha moment that
Right.
you get. It's the same. It happens in that instant. You can take a math class, which is not my subject, a math class,
Me either.
and struggle, and someone says, look, you did it like that, and you're like, oh my gosh, yeah, that's it.
So easy, right?
Right.
Well,
You got the
that
formula
awakening
now.
happened
Right.
in a moment,
Okay.
and addiction's the same way. That thing will come to you in a moment.
All right. So I the way I see it, the bottom line of this is you have to recognize yourself. Without self-recognition, you don't go anywhere in this world. You don't
Right.
learn anything or do anything, right? You have to be a person who recognizes yourself. And when you're talking out there, you're talking to these people who do, really. Because you take your average, what do you call them? I hate the word junkie, person like that in the street. They're oblivious to any of this.
Right.
What help is there for them? They have to want to help, right? They have to want it.
They're going to have to want it, but before they can want it,
Yeah?
you have to see it in them already. because most I will run into some families and their child's addiction is so bad,
Yeah, they're hopeless.
or an adult, his addiction is so bad that they've already written them off. They're like, I give up.
Right.
Send them away or get them away from here, and they've already given up. And when I come in, I basically look at them whole.
Right,
say,
already healed. Yeah.
Already healed. Okay. Yeah, that, if I was like that, I was like that once, and I changed, and you're now hiring me to help him. So
Right.
therefore, if I changed, he can have a day of change also. But let's first see him that way before we start to put him down more, because you're already knocking down
Right.
someone who's down at 20 and 30. How much lower can they go?
Right.
It's suicide after that.
Because people don't realize how powerful that energy is. When you send that energy to him saying he's hopeless, he's not going to change, get rid of him, you're saying that negative energy to them. And that is a terrible, terrible thing to do to anybody about anything, right?
When you can now flip that around and you start to talk to that person one-on-one, and you start telling them things, and they can relate to you because, first of all, you can speak their language.
Right.
Yeah, I get what you're saying. That's where you were, or that's where you are. And so, like, I was there too, so I understand that. This
Right.
is what I found out. You tell them something they haven't heard before.
Yeah.
They're like, what?
And
What do
you
you mean?
can
What do you
see
mean
that
by
without
that?
all that preconceived notion.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it's very hard. Like somebody who has chronic pain for so many years, I mean, if they can get into a memory of a healthier time or a projection of feeling healthy, it's easier for them to kind of like create a new reality around that. But if like they can't even tap into that memory, so say if someone's been in a struggle with their child for so long, it's so hard to remember a healthier version of that child. Where like you could come in and you have none of that story.
You can't say you can't have
Right.
that. Yeah. You really have to have the vibration that you're coming in there and saying, hey, we're gonna rock and roll this, we're gonna do this, we're gonna
Right.
you didn't sign up to. No one walks around saying, boy, I like being an addict. They just don't. It's just not there.
No, right.
You already know that's not, but you need something to take you out of it, and not hear a repetition of beating yourself down. I don't understand why. For example, I don't understand why there'd be a point to talk about your addiction every single day.
Right.
Any client that I ever work with, I let them dump all their addiction talk and all this stuff that they want to talk about.
Get it all out.
Get it out. And
Exhaust
when
it,
you're done,
right.
okay, we're done with that, right? So let's go this direction. And now we're talking about what you want to do, what you want to be, where you want to go, and that's it.
Yeah.
And how to build that. There's a chapter in my book called Pilots and Bikers. And it's a powerful thing because if you want to become a pilot, you can't hang around with bikers. Only because they can't teach you how to fly.
Right.
But what we do is we group you together. We're all going to hang out with bikers. Well, 10 years from now, you're
You
probably
still
gonna
don't
be
know
a
how to
biker.
fly, right?
You still can't fly, but you want to learn how to fly. Go hang out with pilots.
Right.
Do you know what I mean? They can teach you how to fly. And I'm not knocking bikers because I've been
No,
a biker.
no,
That's why I
Big
feel like
point, yeah.
sometimes
I'm
the
saying
like
that whole
support groups
thought.
can get you so far, and then you have to, I don't know. I find that is common with many different types of
Yeah.
support groups.
Mm-hmm.
It's like because if you're just reinforcing that story or that messaging or that programming all the time, you can never get beyond that. Like you're saying with the flying. Right?
There's this saying out there that
It's sort of like a victimhood.
Yeah, the
Victimhood,
victim
yeah.
mentality that
Yeah.
they do with that, yeah. And you never grow if you have a victim mentality.
right.
You never get out of it.
There's a saying out there that support groups are for people who need support. The
Right.
the people who are already empowered in themselves don't need to go to a support group because they're already self-empowered. Why would you go to a support group to help you where you already are?
Right.
You would. And so it's for those who need support. And there's times where some people do need support.
Yeah,
But
it's-
eventually, you've got to break out of that.
I think of that
mentality.
with like medication too, like in a crisis
Mhm.
where certain medications or certain treatments may be necessary because you're in crises. But the point is to get beyond the crises, get into the healing, and not require that medication anymore. You know,
And it's like what our current system is.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty much, if you're going to be trying to get out of an addiction,
Mm-hmm.
you're going to either do methadone or you're going to do Suboxone.
right,
Pick one, because you're going to do one or the other.
right,
Most likely, you're on one or the other.
right.
Well, those will always keep you.
Yeah, somewhat.
There.
Yeah, somewhat there.
You're always
it's like the
locked- you're
nicotine
always locked
patch.
in.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
like,
always locked. You're always locked in.
Mhm.
You're always locked
Yeah.
into that,
You're right.
and it's really hard to break out. It's actually harder to get off of
Cold turkey,
methadone
Yeah,
and Suboxone than it is heroin.
I've heard that.
yeah.
Yeah.
So you're telling me that's true.
I've
Yeah,
seen
that is
that
true.
to be the case too. With
That is
some-
true.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, it's much harder.
Wow.
So you know,
We go down a whole nother rabbit hole about
A whole
the
nother rabbit hole of why
pharmaceuticals
that-
and big
of
pharma
why
and all
that
that with that.
happens.
But yeah.
but it's all. But it's all. That's all part of it. It's I tell people, and especially my clients, I sit there and said, there is a big faction of people I hear who don't mind you being sick,
Right.
and
Yeah.
it's like it's almost beneficial that you are sick,
Like
and that
yeah,
you are
chronic illness.
that
feeds the
you're a
machine.
chronic.
Yeah.
You always have this illness.
Right.
It's like I'm a diabetic. I mean, do they want a cure for diabetes?
No. It's like they don't want a cure for
Financially-
cancer.
Financially
Things like that, yeah.
speaking,
No.
it doesn't make any sense.
Right.
Right.
And I've had clients say to me, "So you're saying that these people are evil?" No, they're not evil. If you come to me, or if I go out and I say, "Here's a company that I want to invest in, and I'm going to invest in this drug company," okay? So the drug company goes, "Oh, you're good. You're an investor, so we get the money for that." Their job is to make sure that I make money.
Yeah.
So they need to sell a product.
Right.
So now they're selling the product. They're making money. You're making money. Everybody's happy, except for that person.
Except for the
way
person who's
down here
Right.
who's struggling.
Right.
But they're not seeing that far. They're just saying, "You're making money. I'm making money. I live in a nice house. You live in a nice house."
Yeah.
That's
We're not
exactly.
thinking about what's going on.
Right, yeah.
That's
down on the
exactly
end
what it is,
and
yeah.
who's being harmed.
But we
That's
are
right.
all one, and eventually, I think it.
It's going to come around. What
does
goes
come
around
around.
will come around.
Yeah,
It
because
will.
I tell them there's no difference between a corporation and a drug dealer.
Right.
He's not looking at the person on
Right.
the very end. He's got people between him and that person. So he's looking at how much money he's making, how good I've got
Right.
health care, I got everything. Life is good. I got the nice car, I got the great house. I'm not
Right.
thinking about the person in the street.
Right.
So people
I walk
start.
by them.
When people start realizing.
Yeah.
They're disconnected from this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How it's
When people start
systematic.
realizing they're not going to give you a cure for cancer or diabetes or any of those big illnesses where they make tons of money, they don't believe it. They don't believe it when you try to tell them
Right.
that they won't do that because of the money they make.
And
It'll be all over. It'll be all over.
so the important part of the book basically is to take responsibility for yourself.
That's right. So
You
what?
know?
All right, we only got about 5 minutes left.
Okay.
Not even. What would you tell these people? I mean, I think you need to teach the teachers. Okay, that's what
Yeah.
it seems like, doesn't it? So what would you tell these people? Are you having group now? Are you teaching? What are you doing? Where should they? How can they get the help that they need?
So what we're doing, that book is one piece. I have a couple other people, two of them have endorsed the book, matter of fact, that are awesome. And we're going to be getting out on video and having these discussions of how to make
Great.
these changes
Great.
and stuff like that, because it's got to come out. It's got to get out there, because what we're currently doing isn't working.
No.
Yeah.
It's not working.
Like
It's
you
a
said, it
broken
takes you
system.
so far, and then
That's it.
not
kinda-
to full
As
recovery.
long as you keep coming,
Right.
that's fabulous.
Grease in the wheel.
Yeah, Yeah.
That's the way it is in this world.
Yeah.
That's the kind of world we have
Yeah.
right now.
So to help people, you have to
I think a lot of
band
people
together
are
and do that.
so afraid to let go of like the systems that are in place to try, something new.
You're right. They
What
are.
do you have to lose, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I passed out 99, 100 of those books to people. Some of I knew, some I didn't know, just to get feedback. And 99.9% were very happy with the book. There's a 1% that would say,
Absolutely not. Yeah.
no, I think your book is great,
I can't.
but I
do
got
it.
to stay with this program because
Yeah, you mentioned
you
that
know
a lot in here.
all my friends and all my people we're all wrapped up. Everyone that I know is in that.
That's
group.
true. And there's a sense of identity or like tribe or belonging in that.
Yeah.
So do you tell the
Yeah,
people in the
people
book how
crave
to keep in touch with you or how to find you or how
Yes.
to... You do? Okay, so get that book. Is it available
That
on
up
Amazon?
It's
To
on,
Bliss.
available on Amazon. Yes.
Okay,
A little book from This to Bliss by
Yep.
Larry Daniel.
here
Webb.
we are.
And the best part about it is I use on purpose. I wore jeans on purpose
Okay.
because the book can fit in your pocket.
Oh, you got a little. Oh my goodness!
Oh,
wow,
that's
you have
nice.
a deep pocket. I
So
don't
that-
have pockets that big.
so that
but-
you can kind of put it in your pocket
Well,
and
that's
walk
what
away
I
with
love
it.
about it is that it's
Yeah.
not overwhelming. Like, so if somebody
Yeah.
is struggling, it's like, oh my goodness, I can never get through that. It's very, like,
It was
simple and powerful.
It was truly written that if you are addicted, like I was, and you found this book on the ground and you picked it up, it could help you.
Okay, we have to say goodnight now so we can give our contact information.
Okay.
So
Thank you so much for
thank
having
you
me.
so much,
Thanks so much
Larry.
for having me.
It
I
was
really appreciate
so
it.
informative,
Thank
and
you.
I know these people out here are going to be helped
Lots
a
of.
great deal. So we're going to let you know how to get in touch with Larry. First,
Oh,
here's
that's
for,
my
for
contact.
Tracy.
TracyCrampton.com is my website, 203-232-3405, and tdcrampton@gmail.com.
And for Larry. Larry Daniel Webb, Insight Alternative Addiction Healing.com, and WLD, was that wild?
Yeah,
Wild
yes,
Web.
yeah.
WEBB at gmail.com. And his phone number, he puts it right out there for you people, 203-804-1380. And for me, Rosemary, it's 203-627-7966. And my email is whitebuffalo8@comcast.net. My website is www.rosemaryLachance.com. And a wonderful, wonderful website that will give you all the books that you need to read about spirituality and spiritual healing and everything is www.gabrielle-publishing-house.com. And if you missed the information, get a hold of me because you'll see me every week. Get a hold of me and we'll get a hold of Larry.
Yeah.
And the shows will be coming up on YouTube in probably a week or so. This show will be up on YouTube, so you can see all along with all the 248 shows that we've done.
Impressive.
All right. Okay, Larry. Thank you
Thank you so
again. I
much.
want to say
Thanks
again
for
and shake
having
your
me.
hand.
Thanks
We
for
love you. Love
for
you.
letting me
you.
put this out there. Thank you.
Okay.
Doing good work.
Good night. Mwah.
found. As you look out through the window to the world you have made, always know you are the vision